Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today I'm talking about the movie Napoleon. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. Napoleon is a movie by Ridley Scott based on the life of Napoleon Bonaparte. As far as what I liked about the movie, basically the movie covers his life from about 24 or so until his death. Basically from the death of Marie Antoinette until he dies on Mount Elba, the other one. Either way, yeah. So as far as what I liked about the movie, Joaquin Phoenix, of course, always good. He does a great job as Napoleon. I really liked Vanessa Kirby as Joséphine, Tahar Rahim as Paul Barras, Matthew Needham as Louvain Bonaparte, Napoleon's brother, I think, right? Rupert Everett shows up briefly as the Duke of Wellington, and I guess that's it as far as the cast. I thought I had somebody else in there, but yeah, either way, I think overall the cast was great. A lot of people I didn't necessarily recognize by face or by name necessarily, but I'm like, okay, I've seen that guy before. But yeah, overall great performances, great actors. I liked a lot of the British guys as well. And yeah, most of the French guys were good. Overall, the acting was great. I like the score. It's by Martin Phipps, who did The Crown, Peaky Blinders, a bunch of stuff like that. And the music, I already got that. Here we go. Yeah, Martin Phipps. All right, cool. Cinematography is by a guy named Darius Wolski. I didn't realize this dude, he did The Crow and Dark City, both Alex Proyas movies, which I really liked. And then he went on to do Pirates of the Caribbean, Alice in Wonderland, The Martian. He does a lot of stuff with Ridley Scott. And he does a lot of stuff with Tim Burton as well. So guy's gone on to have a really good career. And I did not even know that until just now. So good for him. I thought the costumes in here were great. I really loved seeing all of the French military uniforms, which were all done by David Crossman, and the rest of it was done by Janty Yates. She works with Ridley Scott a lot. She worked on him with Gladiator and I think The Last Duel and pretty much everything he's worked on in the last 20 years or so, as far as I saw. So yeah, great costumes in this throughout. I love the way they looked, the civilian costumes as well as the military costumes. Really cool set design. Really interesting stuff they did there with the palaces and all the different places that they went. Some great battle scenes. Honestly, probably some of the best 1800 sort of style battle scenes that I've ever seen. We don't see a lot of that. For a long time, all you ever saw was Vietnam and World War II, and then recently people started getting a little more into World War One. But we haven't seen much, at least that I can remember, from like the War of 1812 and like that kind of stuff in the early 1800s. So yeah, really cool to see, really interesting to see a lot of the stuff. You kind of see some of Napoleon's battle tactics, the way he would sort of like hide his, troops, or the way he would sort of get the high ground by making them think that, they weren't there or not realizing they were there. All that stuff, seeing, some of the sort of pincher movements and really seeing why Napoleon is considered such a tactical genius. And I think the movie did a pretty good job of showing that, at least in some of the battles. And yeah, the battle scenes throughout looked great, looked really well, amazing, really well directed, looked real for the most part, like real people, not CGI extras. Maybe they were, but if so, they did a good job with it. I really appreciated too the movie's sort of examination of a powerful man who's actually very weak and insecure in real life. And I think that's true of really everyone. But, anytime you see these people who are, in these great positions of authority and these positions of power, more often than not, they're insecure and they're afraid and they're, they've got their own problems, usually personal problems that are getting in the way. And it also is sort of an examination of this sort of cult of personality around Napoleon. And of course, something that we still see to this day all the time with, Trump, for example, or plenty of other politicians where they are kind of dumb and they contradict themselves and they lie all the time. But people listen to them and believe them because they're confident, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting. And I will say, people pointed this out too. There's a fair amount of comedy in the movie, more than I expected. It's not laugh out loud, hilarious, funny. It's not like slapstick, silly comedy. It's more kind of subtle stuff, but there is a bit of comedy in there that works for me, seeing again, just the opposite of the way Napoleon kind of sees himself or imagines himself versus the way that he's actually depicted is pretty funny. And again, I've met people like this, and that we all have, and I've always been kind of fascinated because you're like, do you buy the bullshit that you're spewing, or is it like, do you know you're full of shit or not? I can't tell. It's always kind of interesting. So I did appreciate that. far as what I disliked about the movie overall looks great, and I think they did a really good job with all the effects and all the battle scenes. But there is some CGI that's a little questionable. There's a horse that gets hit by a cannonball that's obviously CGI, and that's fine. I actually think it looks pretty good. And I obviously don't want to hit a real horse with a cannonball. That's crazy. But some of the fire in here looks pretty fake to me. And maybe I'm just oversensitive to it, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just the lighting made it look weird, or I'm just whatever. But I swear there's a part where he like blows out candles and they look fake. It's like CGI fire, which I guess it could be for the lighting. It maybe makes it easier. I don't know. And then there's a couple other fire scenes where I'm like, that fire looks fake to me, or that looks like that's just the same exact fire but duplicated over there. Like, I'm on to you. Movie is too long. It's like 2 hours and 37 minutes or something like that. I think I wrote it down somewhere, but either way, it's too long. It doesn't need to be that long. It's a little slow and it's a little boring at times, for me at least. I think it focused a little too much on the love story. I get that. I understand why that's appealing. A lot of Hollywood movies do that. But and it is interesting to see, again, his story with Josephine. I did like that part, but I feel like it focused maybe a little too much on it. I also thought it was kind of weird that no one has French accents, which I guess it's weird. You know, whenever they do like a historical movie, a lot of times everyone just does a British accent. Like you see like Troy, and they're all doing like these vague British accents, and you're like, okay, that's not how people talk back then, but okay, I guess. And then sometimes, yeah, you see they'll do like a, French accents, but they're speaking in English, which is not historically accurate either, but at least it kind of makes sense. To me, it was a little weird seeing Napoleon and all the other French guys speaking with essentially just American accents, just talking normally. I mean, basically the way Joaquin Phoenix spoke in this was the same way he talked in like The Joker or Her or any other movie that he's made. So it's a little weird for me. I guess I would have preferred them just to speak in French with subtitles. And if he can't do French, get a French actor. Now that he was bad, I understand why you cast him, but like, I don't know, it's just a little weird for me. And then there's a lot of historical inaccuracies in this, which other people pointed out, specifically the French critics who kind of didn't like the way that he's depicted in this movie. So the movie is directed by Ridley Scott. He did Gladiator, Blade Runner, Alien, The Martian, The Last Duel. He's done a ton of movies. He's like 85 years old. He's still making movies. It was written by David Scarpa, who wrote The Last Castle, the remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still, All the Money in the World, and he's currently working on Gladiator 2, directed by Ridley Scott. Budget on this movie is like $200 million. I think they got some various different write-offs and stuff for other, because I've heard it reported as low as 130, but about $200 million. So far it's made 78.8 million worldwide, and 32.5 of that is domestic. So the movie's probably not going to make its money back, but that's okay. They kind of knew that. Rotten Tomatoes on this one's an interesting one because the critics and the audience are kind of at the same level. When I first checked, they were both at exactly 61%. Now I think the audience is at 60 and critics are at 61. But yeah, it seems like this is a rare movie where the critics and the audience are kind of in agreement with how much they like the movie. There is a lot of historical inaccuracies in this. So stuff like they kind of just don't really mention as non-military achievements, like the Napoleonic Code or the Bank of France. Some of the stuff like the ice traps and him shooting at the pyramids, I don't think that really happened. I think they're just trying to show that, he didn't really care about his troops that much. He wasn't there for the execution of Marie Antoinette. That was in 1793. He was commanding forces at Toulon at the time. He doesn't really, she was executed at the Place de la Concorde and not at Le Palais des Tuileries. Movie depicts Napoleon meeting Wellington. They never met. Their divorce happened in 1809, 2 years after he met with Tsar Alexander. In the movie, they have it go the other way. He never slapped Josephine during their divorce. That would be out of character. And in the movie, they kind of like make it seem like she's okay with him getting divorced. In real life, she did not want to be divorced. There's a professor, Salima Ikram, a professor of Egyptology at the American University in Cairo. He said Napoleon most likely never shot at the troops. He actually held them in pretty high regard and wouldn't have done that. At the wedding that they have, they give the wrong birth dates. They say that she was born June 23rd, 1767, when she was born in 1763. They say he was born in February 1768. He was born in August of 1769. Why they made those changes, I don't know. Did they just make a mistake, or were they saying that maybe for some reason one of them was lying about their age? I have no idea. Also, they would have used different dates at the time because they weren't using the Gregorian calendar. So it wouldn't have been June. It would have been Thermidor, some whatever their French dates were. They also use miles at some point in this movie. France had already switched to the metric system. Joaquin Phoenix is like 50, 49, I think, but maybe 48 when they filmed this. So he's a little old. The movie starts with Napoleon being 24 at Toulon, and it ends when he dies at, I think it was 51 when he died. So he's the right age for the end of his life, but not necessarily for the beginning. And they didn't do much to make him look younger or older. I don't know. Maybe they did make him look a little older, I think. But yeah, when he's supposed to be 24, he just looks like regular 50-year-old Joaquin Phoenix. So yeah, also the letters that he writes to Josephine, I feel like I've heard at least that a lot of those letters were fake and not real. So that's a little, I don't know. Yeah. Also, Napoleon was not as short as everyone says. They always make fun of him for being short. In real life, he was probably about 5'6", 5'6.5", which was above average height for Frenchmen at that time. Joaquin Phoenix is about 5'8", so he's also not super tall. Vanessa Kirby is listed at 5'7", which is weird to me because she looked taller than him, but maybe heels or something. I'm not sure. And I'm not quite sure how tall Josephine is. I've seen some reports saying she was like 5'9", and some saying she was just 5 feet tall. So, but either way, I think casting an actress who is around the same height as him is a good way to sort of convey the A, just his overall stature, and then B, just the fact that he seemed smaller, maybe. Yeah, like I said, movie's 2 hours and 37 minutes, a little too long. It's made by Apple Plus, this along with Killers of the Flower Moon, same kind of thing. So they spent $200 million on this. They don't necessarily intend to make their money back in theaters. I'm sure anything they make they're happy with, but a lot of it is to get people to subscribe to their service. Apparently, they've got a director's cut coming out on there that's supposed to be 4 hours and 10 minutes long. I probably won't watch that. I know a lot of people have said that maybe some of the pacing issues with the movie would be resolved with a longer cut. Sometimes that happens. You watch a longer cut of a movie and it actually seems shorter. I just don't know about that. And I feel like with this movie, I liked it. I think it was mostly well made. They did a good job with it. But the issues I had were the historical inaccuracies and just the fact that it's a little too long. I feel like I would have enjoyed watching this at home where I can stop, pause it, go to the bathroom if I need to. So I think my score on this is going to be a 6 out of 10. I liked it. I thought it was good, but not great. And I guess I wanted it to be a little more accurate and either shorter or a series or 2 parts or something I could just watch at home. So yeah, 6 out of 10 is my score on this one. But if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night. I'll see you here again next week.